on the whisper of nature's soul, a journey unlike any other, where the ancient Vindhyan hills rise in the silent grandeur, and the Cane River flows endlessly, not just as water, but as the very breath of this land. There lies Panna, a place where the jungle truly breathes. There was a time when silence ruled here, a haunting stillness. The tiger's reign stood at the edge of extinction, threatened by the shadows of poaching and greed. But then, hope rose like dawn. Through tireless efforts of the forest departments and the local communities, life returned, and with it, the roar of the tiger. Today, over 80 majestic tigers roam these lands with quiet pride. In this journey, we will search for that hidden presence, the sovereign of this wild empire. On every branch, a bird with a story; on every trail, a footprint of mystery; in every thicket, a secret held close by nature. In the light of the day, the forest reveals its beauty, and in the darkness of night, it unveils its mystique. This is not just a safari, this is a journey of the soul, a conversation with the essence of the wild. Come, become part of this rare and sacred experience called Panna with me. These are not just cameras, these are the gateway to our heart. Through this, we see, we freeze, and capture the memories for lifetime. So all our cameras are ready to capture the beautiful moments, the treasures, whatever we will be able to witness in this reserve. The sun of April had mellowed into a soft golden glow, draping the forests of Panna in a blanket of silence and warmth. We began our first safari from Madla Gate, the gateway to something sacred. As our jeep kissed the earth, the dry teak leaves whispered beneath our tires, and the scent of the Cane River floated through the air, moist, earthy, timeless. This forest is a blend of dry teak, mixed deciduous trees and open grasslands, felt like an ancient book, where each page is hiding a forgotten story. Our eyes scanned every bush, every shadow, seeking that silhouette, the one the world calls tiger, and the jungle calls him its soul. And then, like a secret gently revealed, we spotted a cub, alone, seated near the river bank. There was innocence in his eyes, but also a quiet pride, as if he was saying, "I'm the heir to this wild kingdom." He was the cub of P141, a fierce and graceful tigress. We watched him from a distance, not daring to go closer, because in the jungle true respect is given from afar. We captured him through our lenses, no poses, no filters, just a moment of truth, wild and unfiltered. We spent the rest of the safari searching for his mother, P41. We looked under trees, behind curves, with hope in every heartbeat, but that day the jungle chose silence.
वेलकम सर पन्ना टाइगर रिजर्व में आप लोगों को। अपना जो सर ये एरिया दिख रहा है सामने, जो एक ग्रास लैंड है, जो ये इसका एरिया है, ये जो T1 की 4 लेटेस्ट की बच्ची का एरिया है, इसका नाम है पन्ना क्यों के नाम से जानते हैं। तो ये जो सामने ये पूरा एरिया उसी का दिख रहा है ना। ये इस तरफ भी दिखा जो है स्क्रिप्ट है, जो नदी उस पार वहाँ तक जाती है। और दूसरी चीज़ सर, पन्ना का जो हिस्ट्री है, तो यहाँ पर 2007-8 में एक भी टाइगर नहीं रह गया था। तो फर्स्ट टाइम में बांधवगढ़ थाना कैसे टाइगर ला गए थे। तो जो T1 टाइगर्स है वो बांधवगढ़ से लाई गई थी। तो उसको यहाँ पर फर्स्ट टाइम पे वल्चर पॉइंट पे छोड़ा गया था। तो उसने फर्स्ट टाइम पे वहाँ बच्चे दिए थे, और वहाँ से धीरे धीरे वो पीछे की ओर मलला प्लेटो में, अरे पांडुपाल वाले प्लेटो में गई है। तो लास्ट जहाँ पे वहाँ एक्सपायर हुआ, लास्ट 19 साल में एक्सपायर। और इसी की फैमिली दिखती है सर पूरे पूरे मीडिया। तो अपना पूरा पन्ना पूरा 3 प्लेटो में मिलता है, मरला, पॉलिनोता और अकुला। तो और टूरिज्म एरिया में 12 से 15 टाइगर दिखते हैं, और जिससे सबसे ज़्यादा जो बच्ची हैं वो, मतलब जो टाइगर्स हैं वो बच्ची वाली हैं टूरिज्म एरिया में। तो ये सबसे ज़्यादा मूवमेंट करती हैं।
थैंक यू।
As we began our return, just when the day seemed done, the forest gifted us one final grace, a leopard sitting beneath a branch, silent and alone. There was a solitude in his gaze and pride. It was as if the jungle whispered, "Patience brings the purest rewards." This time we made our stay at Jungle Camp by Madhya Pradesh tourism, situated juxtaposed to the Panna Tiger Reserve Madla Gate, and it's a nice day. However, I would recommend that avoid taking all-inclusive food, and you can go for a buffet option, so that would be a more cost-friendly option. Our second safari, April 19, 2025 morning. The sky was still bathed in blue shadows, and the forest bathed a little deeper in the hours before sunrise. We began our second safari once again from Madla Gate. This was the time when the jungle was most alive. The air smelled of dew-kissed earth and whispered hope from every branch. Suddenly, a rustle, and then a scene straight from a wild epic. We saw her, Sita Gita, bold and fearless tigress, charging after a deer. The deer ran like wind, but her eyes had already frozen time. In that one moment, nature reminded us that death here comes not with cruelty, but with grace. Further down, we spotted the majestic P141 again, this time with her three cubs basking near a waterhole. They played, fought, rolled, rested, and in their laughter was the wildest, purest melody. Then came the moment. P141 stood and began walking straight towards us. Her steps were calm, her eyes full of quiet confidence, as if saying, "You may look, but you may not touch. This is my territory." We captured her from close, each wrinkle, each whisker etched with the wisdom of the wild. This is a complete fleet for P141. She's on the road and everyone is following her like a princess is going on road, and everyone is there to salute her, to give her the honor she deserves. Later we drove to Vulture Point, a cliff where the sky meets the earth, and India's last few vultures circles the winds. One old vulture sat still, aged, quite eager. We saw the rare four-horned antelope, the elegant Chinkara, the steady Nilgai, and finally a tiny sleepy nightjar resting in broad daylight, unbothered. And the forest whispered again. True beauty is not in noise, but in stillness. We began our third safari. Same day, April 19, 2025 afternoon. The sun blazed overhead like fire stitched into the sky, and the forest stood still, waiting. We began our third journey, hearts full, spirits quiet. We saw them again, P141 cubs, lying lazily in the grass, carefree, wild, untamed. Their eyes danced with mischief, yet carried a depth that only the jungle can give. They bounced on each other, rolled around, then paused to rest their heads on one another, their innocence basking in the wisdom of the earth. A little ahead, a sacred moment unfolded. P141 had made a kill, and now her cubs supposed to share in that victory. They didn't just eat, they learned. They learned that here, in the forest, every bite is earned. Not granted, not begged, not stolen. We watched them feed, but more than food, we saw love. The kind of love that protects and teaches. And as our cameras clicked, our hearts stood still. For we were not just seeing animals, we were witnessing a mother's legacy being passed on. And the jungle whispered once more, every hunter is first a nurturer. Our last safari of the trip on April 20, 2025 morning, the stars had just faded when we began our fourth and final safari. There was hope and a ting of sadness, as if the forest too knew this was goodbye. We returned to the familiar spots. P141 and her cubs were still there, near their old kill lying in the open grasslands. But today, the view was different. The bushes were dense, the light uncertain, we could barely see them, like a poem paused halfway, or a memory that fades just before you grasp it. We understood the forest doesn't always show itself clearly. It chooses when and how you see. Then we took a different path down to the cradle of the Cane River. We boarded a boat. The water shimmered and time seemed to melt into the ripples. A crocodile drifted silently past us, a creature so still it seemed to float on its own breath. So when we finished our Cane River safari, then drivers told us and guided us to a place where P151 cubs were sitting, and we saw them hiding among the bushes. We glimpsed the cub of P151. just for a moment, like shadows slipping through fingers. Since we had limited time and curves didn't move, so we decided to move, and the jungle whispered, even incomplete visions can leave your soul full. Four safaris, four journeys into the unknown. We saw tigers, leopards, deer, antelope, crocodiles, vultures, but more than that, we saw the soul of the forest. A soul that asks for patience, for reverence, and never gives itself to the arrogant. Panna Tiger Reserve taught us that nature is not a zoo, but a sacred manuscript, one that reveals its verses only to the quiet and the respectful. In these four safaris, we didn't just film animals, we listened to stories, told not in words but in glances, shadows, and winds. And the forest left us with one final truth: you may enter the jungle, but you may never own it.